What's up, guys?
How high is
you
too high?
apparently.
No, I am not high anymore, but I was really high a couple hours ago.
Firstly, I have one quick question for you. What the fuck is on your balcony right now?
I hate you so much.
What is that?
Okay, yeah, I did turn my head and look, but
What is that?
not to get off topic already, but funny you should say that because there are weird noises that have been coming from my patio, and it turns out that like a family of pigeons have fucked up like that like anti-bird wire stuff, and they've been like nesting. So every now and again, we'll go, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
That's just me.
There's that, and there's also like that dark-eyed giant from It Follows who I see just pacing back and forth in the background there.
You'd be so lucky.
Here's hoping.
It's funny because the posts of the railing do look like legs.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck off forever, dude.
Look forward to seeing you hanging from that later, bud.
Oh
Yeah,
no!
Yeah, you're not the only one.
Well, I am presenting, so
Oh God, can I join you?
Jonathan has disconnected from the call.
he's disconnected from life.
Jonathan Watkins has left the library.
You guys are
Jonathan
making
Watkins
fun
has been saved.
You're making fun of me for my tweet, and the context on that tweet is that I got really high and I was doing my dishes, and my older sister texted me because the last time I saw her, I brought her some beer. They're usually wine drinkers, and I didn't expect them to even like drink the beer, but we ended up sharing all 4 of the ones that I brought over, kind of like a little flight between us all, and they really liked the beers, which is always cool. So she was texting me. She goes, "Hey, is there anywhere like where can I find some of the beers that you bought or that you brought for us?" And I was like, "Oh, well, like let me look." She lives out in AJ, so like way out in the boons.
Dude, who the hell are you to talk, Michael?
Yeah, I know, you're practically there.
Yeah, but at least it's not the slums.
I'll t-
Them's fighting words.
I've seen your locale. I disagree.
Yeah, she used to live in like in the San Fran area, so she can't afford anything better than the slums of AJ. So
Oh God.
We are talking Apache Junction, yes?
yes, correct.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I got
more-
the right AJ here.
It's more the
Hey,
superstitions,
listen.
but-
Super fan Mel out there is going to be really upset that y'all are talking shit about her home.
well, I was about
In that
to
case, I rescind my statement. AJ is a beautiful place.
I was about to contextualize a little bit that she's living on like they're building out still. It's kind of like what Surprise was in Arizona.
I mean,
years and
you
years
can
ago.
actually build a lovely home out there.
You can,
That's true.
and their
for
house
much cheaper.
Their house is gorgeous. But anyway, so she was asking about beer.
Okay.
Trying to find her a place to go, and she goes, "Yeah, I went to Fry's, but I couldn't find anything good." So I gave her the rule of thumb, and it's like hoity-toity, nerdy, gatekeeper beer shit. Where I was like, "Here's a good rule of thumb. If you're looking for beer, is look at the canned on date and try to drink that beer within 90 days of the canned on date. That's the max freshness. That'll be the best representation of that beer." And then I was trying to lighten it up a little bit because I knew I sounded kind of like a cunt. So I said,
Drink beer when it's fresh. It doesn't sound very cunty to me, but
I said,
you would know.
I said optimally, you would drink that beer as close to the canned on date as possible. And if you could just remove the middleman and put your mouth underneath the tap, then that's what you should do. And I was so stoned that it felt like an aha moment of like, oh, well, that's why breweries actually exist. Got it. Okay.
Well,
cut out the middleman of the can. Just drink straight from the tap. Breweries.
Barney Gumble did that, but he cut his gums to shit. So, you weigh a certainty against the doubt.
Yeah, but anyway, that was me getting high on my day off, guys. So that's the kind of fun that I have. I don't get to watch movies and have fun that way. I get to think about really dumb things and mansplain concepts to myself.
Better what I did on Twitter.
You think that's air you're breathing now?
Can I also, I know that we're not doing a good job of getting into the episode, but
I was going to say, Duan, this is the content you crave.
Shane bought us a little
tasty.
extra time this week by getting off of work early, so I
Getting
have
off?
to read. Yes, I have to read what Asher sent me a couple hours ago to you guys.
Oh, good.
He asked me a question, and I feel like you all could weigh in. So this is from Asher, and he said, "Well, I had too much wine while making dinner, so now you get a random question. if you were Jesus, how long would you wait to come back? Like, I'd probably show up every 100 years or so just to micromanage society. Like, bruh, I see you've thought witches were real for 60 years now. If I come back and you're still on that, I'm bringing the locusts. Don't make me sacrifice your firstborn. Like, show up one day. Hey, just so y'all know, I'm God. There's nothing above me, Father, Son, Holy Bartender, or whatever. I'm the triangle. So look, this is a fun experiment for a while, but I'm bored now, so I'm out. No more Easter. Good luck. By the way, you may still see my face on a piece of toast. It doesn't mean anything and won't get fixed till next patch.
That was a lot to unpack
Wow.
there.
Well, in answer to your question, if I were Jesus, I'd be coming every 5 minutes.
I think I was
That
still
checks
a little-
out.
Be the 82nd coming by the time they got around to discussing it with me.
I think I was a little
And
high
that is
still.
the wrath of God everyone should be afraid of.
Oh,
Watch
no.
your eyes. He's coming. And on that note, Heil come slingers, and welcome to this, the Disinformed podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm John.
I'm Michael.
I'm Courtney.
See, I can still get us into this motherfucker.
There
That's
you
right.
go. Beautiful transition.
What I was saying is that assuming that I was Jesus, I would technically not even exist, like at least in an omnipotent context, or maybe not at all. So I think that's pretty hot. And now I have a new
There's nothing
kink.
potent about you.
Yeah, it is known.
Damn.
Except for the skunk that you bought, apparently, since it got you that stoned.
It was great. I enjoy my time off.
Michael, I want to give you an apology up front because my cats are screaming at me through the door right now. That's going to be happening all episode because we're recording early.
Oh my
so.
god!
Hey.
The fan art of Michael. Oh my
Oh.
good god! Or
Yeah.
as Asher says, myself Christ.
Actually, speaking of Christ, John, did you attend SatanCon this past weekend?
No, but I heard it was great.
I technically didn't, but I went to Old Town and I got drunk. Like I said we were
Same.
going to try and do.
Plenty of demons there.
Oh, yeah. I even talked to the bartender at Goldwater about Satan and everything.
Was
nice.
it Nate? Was it a big guy with a huge deep voice, like he was gargling marble?
He attempted a mullet, I think is the best way to describe his
I
hairstyle.
think- no, never mind, not him then. Okay.
As in, like, he had shaved sides, but he had long
So,
hair.
like, your haircut.
Yes, but, like, longer.
Okay,
Did
so
he-
it's more like back heavy as opposed to top
So
heavy.
what you're
like
saying
you're
is his
rocking.
hair is more
Yes.
intentional than yours. Okay.
Oh, most certainly, yes.
Oh,
Does he-
Michael is intentionally trying to be a quail. Let's not take that away from him. It
It's-
is a look.
They are my people. I do run very fast if I'm spooked.
Listen, I can run really far.
Glass and stuff.
Yeah, Michael, what's a motorcycle made out of? Glass tubes. I can feel you thinking about that.
I'm disappointed in you, Michael. You went all the way to Old Town and you didn't go see Jonah?
I honestly still don't know where he works at.
Okay.
He is
Aside from the stint he had slinging chicken fingers at Cane's, I don't know where he works.
Which you used to your greatest advantage, we all know.
I got a free lemonade card from you guys, and I promptly never used it. And I gave it away to one of my coworkers after it expired.
You son of a bitch.
What can I say? I'm a disappointment to everyone involved.
To yourself. I mean, you're the one who's being cucked out of your own lemonade fix.
I
There's a
am included in my disappointments, yes.
Now we're expanding your screaming of hey to walking into a Cane's and accosting the workers at the register.
Where's my lemonade?
We'll do a food exchange.
What do I gotta do to get a lemonade in here? Just drop trow.
before
That
we
wouldn't even be the worst thing that's happened in that Cane's.
Oh no!
That's
By
actually
all means, I bet
Gonna
not.
say, if you're making the lemonade, maybe that'd work. But
before we
Who
get
trade
to
my lemonade for your lemonade?
before we get to Michael's topic, can I also say something? I have an announcement to make on behalf of Shane.
Oh my god.
Shane
Congratulations.
I'll be dying at the end of the week. Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Shane-
Don't come to my funeral.
Don't. Shane Hunt has uploaded his music to Spotify and streamables, and it
it's
is
so
just
good.
so much fun. And the only reason that I feel like saying it so grandiose right now is because of how much serotonin Shane's songwriting always brings me.
Oh, bless you.
And I feel like you need to go check it out. And also, it's kind of accidental, like deep cut damn stuff if you're into our band, because
Indeed.
Sam's on there, I am on there occasionally, but I will say that I think the best material is the ones where it's just you doing what you do. So
Speechless.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
By the way, Courtney, that's going to be back up. So you and Jonah can have a party. That's going to be on streamables soon.
Yay!
So congratulations.
Anyway, not to put you on blast or
No,
whatever.
I appreciate
I
that.
know I've really been sucking you off for the past couple of days.
You,
but,
you know, you can be the Flava Flav to my Chuck D anytime you want to.
and not to get like weird and like sentimental about it, but I fell in love
Too
with
late.
your voice first before I met you. And it's nice to be your friend. But I remember very vividly going on your SoundCloud, had been, oh my God, almost 10 years ago?
Easily.
I was
Back
on
then,
your
they sent
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud through floppy disks and carrier
It's true.
pigeons.
And I was going through I was in a bad relationship and listening to your music, and it was part of what kept me sane. And I really appreciate that about you. So,
Well, God bless you. And I feel like I went through part of that bad relationship with you. So
you sure did, Wayne.
it was a good time. And I still would have thrown something at her if I could. But
Yeah. Anyway,
that's a story for another time.
I was in my feels today, and I wanted to share that with you.
Well, I appreciate that immensely, and you know that I love you in spite of how horribly I
love.
abuse you in front of the general public on
All right,
on
now
the regular.
get to spanking.
Well, that's part of a contract that you guys signed where everything is above board and all that.
Love is not a contract; it's a burden that we share, Michael.
I was talking
Like
for
children
legal
for
purposes.
other people. You have no idea the number of $45 charges I've had to deal with because of John. So, I mean,
You would have no idea.
John,
You could not fathom that idea.
he's on only stands all the time now.
Speaking of paying money for things that I shouldn't need to see, what do you have to talk about today, Michael?
You haven't paid penny one into this podcast, don't lie.
I've
Like, wait a
offered.
minute.
I've offered.
I know
When?
Michael has.
When?
I mean, off air, we have offered to.
You have.
give you money.
I'm sorry. I guess that's fair. You have purchased beers for me, so that is true. My apologies.
And I've made you come.
Well, that wasn't part of the podcast experience.
That's how the podcast
Unless
got
you
started.
want to do a Patreon.
Oh. Man,
This is.
I can
this
just
is peak
imagine all
content.
of the. Our tiers are dolphin levels. 1 dolphin, 2 dolphin, 3 dolphin, 4. By the time you get to a school, you are sufficiently fucked.
Toast.
Can you jump into what we typically do here? Shane,
Maybe.
before?
I mean, if properly motivated.
Motivation.
Like how you're giving yourself a lot
Good
of air
work.
to edit.
Huh?
Quoi?
What is editing?
You
That
wouldn't
is a
know?
good question.
I wouldn't. Or so I've heard.
All you know how to do is make dolphin noises over big words.
I forgot dolphins don't normally make that noise.
Depends on the circumstances.
French dolphins do when they're
gonna say.
ravaging the countryside.
What part of the French Riviera are we in? Because, yes, it might very well be.
Everyone, please subscribe to Michael's new YouTube channel called Very Accurate Animal Sounds.
I was going to say,
They're all
yeah,
just me going, eh.
the YouTube, as
Yeah.
our TikTok would prove, is my channel.
Yeah.
I
like-
Talk
like
that
really
we-
hard.
I like to think that we just signed up thinking that we signed up for YouTube, but we actually did YouTube,
Mhm.
which is a complete like knockoff site, and we've given all of our personal information to and everything like that.
It's just me trying to fill the tub as much as humanly possible without it overflowing and still only getting like 1.5 inches under my ass.
This is beautiful.
Come on, I just want to get the thigh cheese taken care of.
Oh,
I've been
man.
chafed. I've been chafed for days.
I just want a little bit of Release.
It's starting to get sentience, and I think there might be an uprising. Wait, that's just my dick.
We want Ohio.
All your base are belong to us. But what we do typically do here, much to my chagrin, is we delve into random esoterica, and in the course of explaining it to one another and to you, we will leaven in the occasional lie because that's fun. Lying is the most fun a girl can have with her clothes on, as I was told once. So, we will not let you leave disinformed, however, in most instances, other than me, apparently misremembering, then misremembering again, that Iron Man was in fact released in 2008. And Steven corrected me on that, and I now just feel really stupid. But in any event, we will give you a little denouement at the end of the episode, tell you what we lied about and why it was or was not entertaining. And hopefully that will be sufficient to keep you coming back for more, just like John cutting his teeth on a tap in a bar somewhere.
Oh, don't eat your mic. Oh, God.
It's so phallic, I want to suck it.
I mean, fair enough.
You're not wrong.
Stop wagging that chin of yours and let me suck it.
Is Jay Leno on the show today? What's happening?
Is
So
that
anyway-
a chin in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Yeah,
So
his
anyway.
name is Wong, and
Uh,
he's a wonderful, wonderful boy.
okay. There are
Uh,
3 lies.
I don't know if you can keep that
today.
in.
Oh,
I'll
no.
allow it. You said 3 lies?
3 lies.
He's doing another one of those obscured topics again, so I'm terrified of what's about to hit us.
What do you got, you little esoteric daddy?
Oh, it's esoteric as fuck. I want to start out by asking a simple question.
As you are wont to do.
No, it shouldn't seep like that, and you should still seek the advice of a medical professional.
Damn it. Well, that is my episode, guys. Thank you for reaching out, and have a good day. How do you guys engage with the media that you consume, whether it be books,
Orally.
video games? Fair enough. If you consume literally your books upon completing them or while enjoying them, either way. So, do you just, while you're enjoying your media, do you sit there passively watching, like if it's a TV show, or passively reading if it's a book, or do you actively try to engage with the yes, Shane?
I'm passively reading?
Well, what I mean by
I think
that
he-
is,
I think
are
he's
you
talking
just
about like what are you
reading-
doing while you're
Yes.
doing what you're doing?
Are you
like-
just sitting there fully engaged in just reading the words, or are
I'm sitting
you
there
looking
fully
stuff up?
engorged and, trying to distract myself with other things.
So I've seen
Okay.
Shane read a book before, and it's so terrifying that I don't even know if I should talk about it. But what he does, because he did say he's engorged, and he's enlarged as well. He
Call me
he-
fat, it's fine.
he
Too much
flips-
caloric content.
Not only does he use his dick as a bookmark, but he uses it as a page turner, and
That's impressive.
You have never had a paper cut until you've had one on your Vase de France.
and at this point he's had so many that it just looks like a
just
roadmap.
calloused.
Yeah.
And that is, in fact, why all my pages stick together, not any other lurid activity.
Yeah. So anyway,
So we know how Shane enjoys his books and or TV shows, but Courtney and John, how do you enjoy your media? Do you just sit there and read it, or are you
Yeah.
doing something otherwise, like listening to a podcast?
Courtney, what do you do when you
or-
read?
When I read, I usually have like
Yes.
lo-fi on in the background.
Dude, same.
Okay.
Wait the fuck. Like, how can you listen to a podcast and read at the same time?
I think he's talking about other activities. Like,
Oh,
Are you,
yeah,
are
I'm
you
saying,
talking
like-
about ADHD today, or what?
No,
what are we doing?
no.
Well, hold on,
It's just,
hold on.
This is just a simple question. So
Yeah,
let me
stop
rephrase.
being smart. Be simple, Shane.
Do you do something else than just read when you are reading?
hold on. Let me ask that so Shane can understand it. Who is your daddy and what does he do? No, but I think the context is My answer to you, Michael, is it depends on what I'm doing. So if I'm or
Okay.
listening to a podcast, I prefer to be doing like chores. Like today, I listened to a bunch of podcasts while washing dishes and cleaning up our kitchen. If I'm reading, I like to listen to lo-fi. When I'm watching movies, I'm focused because I actually actively do that, and it drives me fucking crazy not to pick up detail on that.
Okay.
So yeah, it's all based entirely on the medium.
That's a good point. And you even mentioned detail. While you're watching movies or television or something like that, if you see an actor, do you feel like you need to look up where you've seen them before? Like if something clicks?
Depending on the deja vu feeling of the actor or actress.
Okay.
Do you guys do that?
Oh, I'm a nightmare when
I
it
do.
comes to that. Like IMDb, like what's their name? What I've seen them in
So is
something,
Becky.
and Jonah will be
That
like,
is-
"Could you
yeah.
just not do that?" Actually, and I'll be like, "Well, I'm not going to tell you." So
What about you, Shane?
Oh, I will stop. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting Shane. I will stop whatever I'm watching and be like, I know this guy from somewhere. I will open the IMDb app and just look it up and stop everything just to figure it out. Sorry.
You're not sorry.
Mildly, yes.
Y'all apparently consume trash content, and it shows.
What do you do, Shane? Are you 100% focused entirely?
Obviously. I mean,
Well, what are you
if
doing
I'm
when are you
watching
just
something
sitting?
that I'm invested in, like, I want to get engrossed in the story. If I don't, I turn it off.
What about
Okay.
podcasts? Are you just sitting on your couch staring at a wall?
No, I mean, a podcast is not media to me in that, like,
Oh,
I'm
so
not
we don't
absorbing material
exist?
that same way. Like, I will put on podcasts to distract me from the fact that I'm exercising or doing something else, or
Okay, fair.
like, if I'm, as you said, cleaning the house. I don't understand, like, reading a book or watching a movie or anything else like that, because those are activities much like being intimate with another human being, whereas, like, you want to be laser focused on the thing you're involved in.
You do?
Lest wise, you wind up getting kicked off the bed, or molested by a dolphin, or
Hey.
some small child's putting their fingers under the door. Like, you got to kind of be
or your husband gets
involved in the
distracted
practice.
by the sounds of your friends singing.
That's a good point.
happens.
What if you were watching or reading or something like that, and there was something that you needed to investigate further? Like, say you're watching a murder mystery. Okay. Do you actually try and pause the show and try and guess who done it? Or do you just
I live in the
let
moment.
it happen? You live in the moment?
It's a roller coaster, man. You
Okay.
get on and just let it take you places. Like,
Okay.
you don't want to stop it every 20 seconds and be like, where's the next turn coming?
Can't be safe on a
Okay.
skateboard, man.
You cannot. Yeah,
Okay.
no, it really is. It's like in for a penny, in for a pound. If you're going to watch a movie, fucking be engaged.
No, yeah. I mean, there's a reason why I ask these things.
Oh, really?
Because, well, I'm just doing it for shooting the shit. Because there is media out there that you have to put more effort into than just passively experiencing it. Where you actually have to sit down. There might be codes that you have to break or decipher in order to get more information or something to that effect. To get 100% comprehension of the narrative, you actually have to roll up those sleeves and get those elbows dirty.
Who the fuck wants it?
I am one of those people, actually.
Well,
but
good luck with
that's
that.
neither here nor there.
It might be a product of your chemical imbalance, my friend.
Oh, most certainly.
you
No,
sick
it mostly has to
Definitely,
do with
because
his
I'm
red string
neurodivergent.
collection.
Tampons?
Yes. There are a lot of red strings there.
Tampax Pearl, silky
Um,
smooth.
So there is a genre or a name for this certain type of media wherein you can't just passively experience it. You actually have to put work into
I
it
like
in
how
order to fully...
derisive that tone you take is on top of that as well. You can just passively do this.
It's called Gupo
that is-
Gloppenstein. That's the
I guess
trend.
I wrote that a little bit too forced.
All right, I'm
The
going to stop
Dawkins?
interrupting. I'm just going to lay back and I will be a passive listener to
No!
your programming.
No, this
But-
okay. So, peering behind the curtain, I wanted to write this more in the same vein as your 1994 Fantastic Four.
Well, there's your first problem.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to encourage conversation, which is why I was enjoying you guys talking about how you enjoy your media.
You sick fuck, you're getting off on this.
Oh, most certainly am. So there are works of fiction out there that are written in such a way that you actually have to do more work you have to put work into it in order to be able to understand what is going on completely.
Are you talking about the Dune franchise? Are we finally talking about Frank Herbert?
That actually, holy shit.
Because
That's
I
a
feel
good
like
point.
I feel like I'm literally studying a goddamn book just to get through it right now.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, that's a good point. I did not address Dune at all in this script because...
We don't even know what you're talking about yet.
Fine. Okay.
Firstly, just not before you get ahead of yourself. Or before I get ahead of you. Here's what the context of what you're just asking, just cold,
Yes.
sounds to me like if I were to ask you, Michael, how do you normally eat food?
With my big dumb fucking teeth.
No, it's like, do you have to take a bite and savor it and try to identify every single thing that was included into it? It was like, ooh, I tasted a little bit of the brioche bun, and there was a lovely cheese there. What is that cheese?
Are you describing
What
how
is the-
Courtney processes food?
What is the bacterial process that cheese had to go to in order to be cheese?
Crux
And
skin-
condiments,
skin
like what is a mustard seed? And then do you have to, between bites, stop and take a drag on a cigarette to give you a different sort of tingle sensation on your palate so that you can go back and continue to enjoy the food? Or do you have to take a drink between each bite? Like, because some meals do require you to take a little more time to appreciate the food that you're consuming as opposed to just slamming a Hungry Howie's pizza in your gob and then getting the sauce all over everything.
Well, yeah, but I don't know why I would smoke a cigarette between the two because
I
I
also
feel like
don't know
that
why
kinda
you
just...
passively eat your meals, Michael. I mean, do you just sit
I-
there and let the food happen to you, or do you experience it? Because some food requires a significant amount of effort in order to enjoy it properly. Like you've got to be able to kill the squab, pull all the feathers off, bludgeon it across the counter, drink the blood, sacrifice your grandmother.
And you enjoy the whole aspect of that. The whole
Absolutely.
rigmarole.
Every element you're appreciating.
Yes.
Yeah, crack
So-
those eggs.
You did summarize pretty much what I was trying to get at, in that there is a genre, or I guess meta-genre,
Mhm.
to try and be esoteric about it, pedantic even, called Ergodic literature. And it is, Ergodic is Greek for work, essentially.
I thought it was the sound you made in the back of your throat before you threw up.
But also, is
Sorry
that,
for
is
everyone
that
that
bullshit, though?
gets
Is it
nauseous
actually
over
called
that.
ergodic?
Yes. I
Interesting.
thought that was bizarre because ergodic is a physics term, but it means work. In that for ergodic literature, you actually have to put in work into being able to fully understand the material, the fiction, the work that you are trying to enjoy.
I thought ergot was the bacterial thing that happened to the bread in your episode 4 weeks ago.
Oh no, that's ergot with a T, not
Ergot to be
ergot
kidding
dick.
me, yeah.
With a D, with a dick instead of a
Well,
T.
I could see you did
Yeah.
pronounce that so succinctly there that I was able
Ergot.
to separate the two.
Now
So-
go on, ergit.
To answer
Now,
Shane's
ergot.
question, get on out of here. To answer Shane's question, why the fuck am I talking about this? Because that's the title of my next section. So I started reading this very interesting book called House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I think I pronounced his... Yeah, exactly. A couple
you do, and
weeks
you'll
ago.
clean it up.
And while the story itself is very, very intriguing, how it is presented in the text makes it vastly more interesting. So the basic premise of this book is that the book itself is an academic text of a fictional documentary called The Navison Record, which chronicles the filmmaker's home as bizarre things take place. Okay. Think of it like 2007's Paranormal Activity, except that the book was written 7 years prior, so it wasn't curbing anything from it.
Okay.
Or The Haunting of Hill House for those who actually went to the source material as opposed to the Netflix series.
That's a good point, yes. However, instead of it being a straightforward deconstruction of this fictional documentary, this text was, I said that weird, documentary.
Are you fucking kidding me right now?
I had a stroke. Leave me alone. Instead of it being a straightforward deconstruction of this documentary,
Damn.
this text was put together by a second narrator by the name of Johnny Truant, who pieces together the text after the original author by the name of Zampano.
Johnny Truant sounds like bullshit.
No, Johnny Truant is his name.
Who's
which
the
I thought
original
was
host
weird.
of Jackass.
Yeah, exactly.
Was he a 1920s bootlegger?
No,
No, he just didn't show up to school.
He's a turn-of-the-century slacker that works at a
KFC.
tattoo parlor. He doesn't
Wendy's.
tattoo himself. He hasn't gotten that good. He just refills the ink needles.
Oh, you made me ink.
Yes. He also does a lot of drugs and just pretty much sleeps around, and I think Los Angeles is where the story is based out of, at least his perspective.
Okay.
So anyway, he discovers the original author, Zampano, dead in his house, in his apartment, surrounded by a collection of material that pretty much, it was his random scraps of notes, pretty much turning an academic text out of this documentary. So we're already several layers deep in terms of what the story narrative is about. We have a second narrator piecing together the text written by a first narrator who is dead, which is an academic deconstruction of a documentary. Okay, so we're already getting super meta. But
yeah, that's a lot of fucking rungs to go down.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and by now I would have called it the House of Left, because I did.
Fair enough. The text is not just Johnny's attempt at piecing things together, but instead, going a step further, it's actually a publishing company that is also interpreting his work because he had assembled everything together and posted it on the internet. And so they had taken everything together and collated it with other sources to create a full book.
So
Now-
would you say that's kind of
Harebrained.
hear me out? Like, so is this the equivalency of if My Immortal got discovered by an actual big book publisher and they're like, she has something going for her here, and then they took her whole fanfic and then like flushed it out and then actually bound it and released it?
No, it's a fan fiction. You had it right the first time.
You guys really fucked me up here.
I mean, in a sense, right? But it gets a little bit deeper than that because it's not just everyone. It's not, they didn't write a collaborative novel. You see the bits and pieces of the different authors or narrators that were part of it. In terms of, I'm trying to think, I'm now going off script here, which is worse because I'm trying to give you guys a better idea of what's going on as opposed to what I wrote, which is terrible. But anyway,
allow me to weigh in what my perspective is on this. This is like the oral history sort of narrative that you have from Rant by Chuck Palahniuk, married with like a David Lynch-esque Mulholland Drive kind of narrative.
Okay.
Where there are things that feel so goddamn disparately connected to one another that you can't imagine it's in the same movie.
Much to Dewan's chagrin, I have not watched many.
I'm not shocked you haven't seen that film.
I have not watched Mulholland Drive nor almost anything David Lynch outside of maybe the first 4 episodes of Twin Peaks, and he still hates me to this day, and I can feel him screaming right
he's
now.
actually on your patio.
I was
so.
gonna say, yeah, he's standing there just banging on the. Hey. So.
Anyway,
If I understood those references, I would be able to give a better.
I'm sure. Yes.
But how it is written is we have that original author's notes that have been pretty much put together in a book form, but we also have a lot of footnotes where Johnny Truant will add his own.
I just hate that fucking name so much.
Johnny.
Yeah, my name's Johnny Truant.
Why? Are you upset about it because that's your solo project name?
No, because it sounds fucking made up, say. Yeah. I'm Johnny
Getting it
Troy.
tattooed next week.
It is a fiction. It is a work of fiction, so it is kind of made up.
Yeah,
Johnny
well, now
B.
we're just
Truitt.
arguing some. Now we're just
So-
arguing semantics. See? Yeah.
So we'll have this thing where he's investigating the documentary, but then you'll
Hill
have
House,
footnotes that are written by Johnny, where he will start explaining his own process in either collating the material, or he'll just go on about random things that he's done. Like he had in the beginning of the book,
I took a
he
shower today,
pines
see?
over.
And then I made a cheese sandwich. Yeah.
I was going to say 432, 8 cheese sandwich.
And then I drank a cup of water with Tabasco sauce in it. Yeah.
Kind of to that extent, but not as bland or banal.
You
Banal.
Are you trying to tell me?
That's the word I'm
Sounded
saying.
pretty spicy
Banal.
to me.
Banal.
Listen, I
I'm
don't
not
go
your-
that
Not
way.
bland.
I'm not your
Sorry.
average white person, Michael. I drink my water with a splash of Tapatio. Just like
What this
Authentic.
reminds me of is like the Philadelphia experiment, where the whole rumor got started by some jackass who decided to write his annotations in the margin of a book that he, really enjoyed, and then he wrote a response to himself as another person, and then sent it in to be published. Like, this is apparently Michael needs to re-listen to that episode because his eyes are alight right now.
Yes, because that is pretty similar. So
Okay.
you get a lot of you get the multiple perspectives that are occurring through the text.
Right, because
have the-
and it's
Yes, yeah.
something tantamount to this because the book was originally written by one person about how UFOs are plausible, and then this person then is commenting on whether or not that's realistic to himself by writing in multiple voices. So yeah, I
Interesting,
kind of get it.
interesting.
I'm picking up what you're putting down here.
Okay, good, excellent.
Also,
Yes,
keep in
'cause
mind,
that's-
you asked us to talk over you. You said to do that.
No, I know.
You wanted this.
I understood the assignment.
You
I'm
consented.
perfectly good with you guys interrupting me and just hey.
Tell me I
so,
can stick it wherever I want.
Yes. Yes, Shane, you were describing exactly the kind of overall structure of the text where you have multiple people pretty much they're not directly arguing with themselves, but they're arguing with past iterations of authors with the text.
I find your findings to be quite dubious, sir.
Shallow and pedantic.
Indeed.
That actually does occur because a lot of the sources that Zampano, the original author, cites, Johnny says they don't exist. Or there was like one particular one where Zampano cites Ken Burns, who is, I think, a real life person.
You think is a real life
Wait, do you really not
I
know
don't
Ken
remember
Burns?
who that is, and I'm having a small series of
He's
strokes.
a documentary. He's
Okay,
a
perfect.
documentarian.
No,
yes.
he is
Thank
a
you.
documentary.
He's
It's
a
a
documentary.
documentary.
He's a documentary on his
Ken
own.
Burns by Ken Burns.
And anyway, there is a source in the book that cites that Ken Burns covered this documentary, but then Johnny says there is no record of this thing even existing, let alone Ken Burns covering it.
But
And
it just
just,
hasn't
like-
been released yet.
That sort of like back and forth where you don't really know where a lot of these things are. You can't trust them. You can't even really look them up yourself, right?
Okay, and then this whole thing is predicated on a documentary that is documenting preternatural experiences that a person has in their house.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to cover it too much, but essentially the main person whose name is Will Navidson, he's a world-renowned photojournalist.
Comes
Okay.
from a
He
long
moves
line
into
of
a
Navidsons.
house. Sorry?
I said he comes from a long, proud line of Navidsons.
Mm-hmm. The house of Navidson. He moves into a house in the countryside in Virginia, and everything's fine for a while until he notices a door that has appeared out of nowhere, and opening it reveals a hallway that he has never seen before. And so it becomes this thing where it's an investigation into the house, because upon measuring the hallway and everything, he finds that the inside of the house is about an inch larger than the outside. And it kind of just goes on from there, where there's a lot of inconsistencies as to the size of the house that's going on. Rooms start appearing and disappearing and changing as they stay in the house. So it's not necessarily like an exorcist, like sort of haunting.
Right.
Like
But
Harry
it's
Potter room
something-
of requirement on crack.
Or something
yes,
that
yes.
Johnny Sims would just eat the shit out of.
It's pronounced truant, and you knew that.
So, yes, that's the general overarching plot of the documentary that was studied by an academic, that was collated by a second person,
Indeed.
that was made for publishing by a third
Which was
editor.
then swallowed by a dog, and the old lady in the shoes probably going to die.
Yes, and that
Is
isn't...
Sam Neill in the book in any way, shape, or form? Maybe
I don't-
accidentally opening up a portal to hell.
I don't think so, but I will say that the author's
I got shamed
sister,
with it,
who
that's
was
all
in a
matters.
band, also wrote music based off of this book. But I don't have the sources for that because I didn't really add that to the script. It's just supposed to be, there's a lot of different things going on, and to be able to interpret what is going on, you have to do the work in terms of analyzing the different storylines and narratives that are going on. And
Or
that's the
Do the
main
work
idea.
to just, make one of the covers meet the other cover and then stay in that state.
Do the research.
Yes. And
not
this
made
isn't
fair.
even like the whole idea. At some point in the narrative, Johnny actually hands over his text to another, his close friend Lude, which is spelled Lude, who is in the text, who completely
First name Quay.
rewrites. No.
Quaalude.
Though similar, this character Lude, while he's rewriting, he actually writes over a lot of Johnny's notes, and he'll actually like cross out things. So we'll see parts of the text that are literally scored out or removed, just to show that it is not just a work that is completed; it is a work in progress of sorts.
Yeah,
So
he's
then
like, you
we'll
said-
have like phrases that say some intermittent doorway opened in the wall that's crossed out, and then over the top of it's written vagina mine.
Kind of similar, where like the original Zampano would say like they had sex, and then he'd cross it out and say they fucked, like things like that.
And
or
then there's, like,
He
editorializing.
had. Yes,
Whereas-
editorializing, or he went on at length about a labyrinth and the Minotaur in the center of Labyrinth,
Minotaur!
a Greek myth. And that whole thing is just crossed out. It's still in the book, but it's all scored and written in red font or red color.
You talked about how their bones were dollars like 8 times. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's because I forgot whether or not I said it.
So when Lou takes over for Johnny, he actually writes about a week-long ecstasy binge that they went on before discovering the text.
Fuck that.
No, that is true. They go on a week-long, at least I think it was a week-long ecstasy binge, and Lude actually lists all of their sexual conquest that occurs during this binge.
Can
and
you
then
imagine just
after-
how depressed you have to be at the end of that ecstasy binge? Because that's the thing, right? Is that when you do ecstasy the following day, it's almost like a complete reversal of the happiness that you get.
Postpartum.
So if
Yeah.
you're on ecstasy for a straight week, he probably crawled to the bathroom and crawled back to bed. And that's all he did
Yeah.
for like a week.
Well, no, he wrote in this, and he wanted to keep his I guess drug trip going, so he actually took ayahuasca, I think. Yeah,
Ayahuasca.
Fuck, I was close. And
Fresca?
actually,
You're not an addict and it shows.
it actually went on a kind of spirit quest while he was interpreting these notes. So we have this person going on a drug trip fueled spirit quest while in the footnotes of someone philosophically interpreting architecture, to just give you an idea of what is going on in this book, where you have these multiple storylines that are occurring at the same time, right? And you have to be able to parse through what is going on in order to understand the whole story, the whole context.
So if a person were, say, to, step out of their front door, trip, fall in the mud, while trying to extricate themselves from the mud, stumble into the middle of the road and get hit by a car, and then after the car had gone by, be sodomized by a neighborhood dog, and then be dragged bloody through the mud again back into the house to shower them, this book is the study of all of those things being washed by the water down the drain.
And more.
Yeah. And then also a third person that saw part of the sodomy.
Spit on him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spat him after the sodomy and then wrote that as
Okay.
well,
And then
contradicting
Forced
things
him
that
to
were
take
going on.
drugs and describe all the things that had happened to him.
Yes, yeah.
This is ADD with a cover on it, Michael.
You're not
well,
wrong.
shit. I guess I'm not covering it as well as I wanted to. I enjoyed this text because
I'm not shocked.
Yeah,
This
because
sounds
it
like
involved a lot
100%
more
Michael.
work. I don't know. I'm the person that enjoys like not just sitting down and reading. I like to be kept engaged through doing things outside of the text. One of my favorite parts in the text that I guess I'll recount here was that
Please recreate it.
Zampano. I literally just broke there.
He just gave me like a full teacher look of like, shut the fuck up, I'm gonna read.
I had a statement I was gonna say, and then you said that, and it just
You asked for this.
gone.
You did.
I know. No, I know. I as long as you guys are having fun, I'm
We
enjoying
love you
this.
dearly. Please continue.
I'm miserable.
Well, that has nothing to do with this episode. One of my favorite aspects of this book, to show kind of just like the bizarre nature of it, is while Zampano is telling the story of an expedition into a deeper part of the house, he is explaining what the architecture isn't by referring to other architects and their architectural designs. And so he takes up 14 pages on either side of the margin, on either margin, just listing the things that it is not.
It isn't.
So it doesn't follow the
bathroom at
architecture of this person, of this person, of this person, of this person. And you don't need to read that necessarily for context, but it's just one of those things where you can get, I don't know, I'm just gushing about this book. Let me say where this takes me. Okay?
to the
All right.
to the bathroom to clean up because you've made a mess of yourself.
To the moon, diamond hands.
Hashtag trigger warning, by the way.
Yes. So I wanted to figure out, are there other books written like this, where you have to actively put in effort and work in order to be able to understand everything that is going
Is
on?
this because you're translating Ben Shapiro novels into fanfic reads?
Yes,
me
that
tell you
takes
something,
active
brother.
work. That takes active effort in order to understand what the fuck he's trying to get across.
It takes effort to translate it into English, firstly.
Also that. So this made me ask, is this book unique, or did I just uncover a whole literary subgenre?
No, because if you want to, you can read Finnegan's Wake and really confound yourself.
That is actually a very good example. I didn't include that in the script, but that is an example of the topic that I'm talking about today, in addition to the book, Ergodic literature. That is actually one of the more well-known examples of ergodic literature is Finnegan.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And to discuss how fun that is, if you are not going to discuss it, allow me to
please.
disclose this
Please,
for our friends on
actually,
the call.
Yes.
It is one of James Joyce's most confounding works because it is written in brogue. So it's actually like a cross between Gaelic and English. And it's also told in stream of consciousness. And also, the beginning of the story it starts sort of mid-sentence. And then when you get to the end of the book, you discover that the end sentence of the book leads into the beginning sentence of the book.
Okay, so
The end of the book does not end. There's no period. It just runs to the beginning of the book again.
So if you
almost
want
like a certain series where they get to the top of a certain building and they open a door and they're going through a desert searching for.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Also, Francis the Mute by the Mars Volta is a music example of that. And then a question I had for Shane that popped in when you were describing that is then, would you describe Chuck Palahniuk's Pygmy as ergodic literature?
No, because that's it feels like it thinks it has a narrative.
It's also very fair.
It's
it
just
can't be
poorly
literature
written.
if it doesn't have a plot.
It
I
thinks it
challenge-
has one.
I challenge anyone to convince me to read Pick Me in earnest. It's not going to happen. It's like me trying to convince my wife to watch Tusk again. It's just never going to fucking happen.
Well, one of the things that confounded me about Pygmy is one of the things that also confounded me because I love James Joyce and am like dyed in the wool. Like Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man is one of my absolute favorite books. And yet, like, there is a 100-letter word in the opening paragraph of
What?
Finnegan's Wake. Yes. I'm not kidding. There
Do
is
you know the
100
word?
letters in the word. Dude, you think I could pronounce it even if I tried?
What are you, Michael?
That reminds me of a popular YouTube like viral video or something where it's a weatherman from like Wales that's pronouncing the weather, or that like pronounces a city that's like literally 100 letters long, and he pronounces it just like perfectly, but it's something to that effect. It also, because you said it's Gaelic, I figure it's something similar. Though Gaelic,
Yeah,
though
sure.
I will say for all the Welsh and Gaelic people that Welsh and Gaelic aren't the same culture or language, but
Prove
it.
that's neither here nor there. So the next section, I wrote, pull yourself up by your book straps.
Fuck
off.
off.
We're like the same person, John.
So the term ergodic literature was coined in a 1997 book titled Cybertext, Perspectives on Ergodic Literature. The 2,000-page text, which covers the evolution of media, specifically in regards to the invention and later mass adoption of the internet, and how some authors took advantage of the late 90s internet boom to mass market their works. We see visionary authors like famed TERF J.K. Rowling use the internet of yesteryear to create communities of fans to help increase the popularity of their books.
And just because I know contextually what it means, but I don't think I've had it like actually defined for me. Can you tell me what a TERF is?
Trans exclusionary radical feminist. I believe those are the exact words, but it's the idea that you're a feminist that excludes trans women.
Oh, so you're disgusting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's no debate. Yes. Yeah. We're not doing a deep dive on that text. I don't want to do it. You guys don't want to do it.
No one wants to do a deep dive on a turf either.
That's very true.
Very true.
There are easier
but
ways to kill yourself.
Yes. But instead, I wanted to use that text as and its notoriety. It pretty much it coined this term, ergodic literature, to figure out what falls under that definition of ergodic literature. And you guys were already starting to do that with talking about Pygmy and all that stuff. And honestly, that is the conversation I wanted to lead into, was what texts have you guys read that would fall under the purview of ergodic literature? Because I feel like that would be a good conversation instead of just letting a book or some people on the internet define this idea. I figured it would be more fun for us to go over some examples that I have found that fit this criteria, or not, if you guys disagree, and kind of like come to a consensus as to what ergodic literature is.
So Courtney's read the
it's
Bible,
fun.
right?
That's what I was thinking just now.
The
what?
Bible?
Sorry? Oh. You definitely have to put work into that.
Uh-huh.
Well, also there's
Understand what's
many
going on
editors and there's many asterisks. There are like in the margins being like, nah, bro, they just fucked.
Yeah, true.
Oh, like last week. And they did not fuck. So
Yeah, then he straight up sucked the ring off his finger and fucked him silly.
suck that 11th finger.
Back on the Dead Sea Scrolls again.
Like the Dead
My
Sea
scrolls are
Scroat.
definitely dead. And I'm just going to keep doing this hand gesture here.
Okay.
So,
All
Now,
right.
if you had
Toss
a
that
dick
salad,
in both
bitch.
hands,
Okay.
I would pay attention more.
the what? Oh, if I just keep doing this. Okay.
You look
Just
like the
Like
freeze
Street
frame
Fighter.
of choose your fighter.
No, you
Shoryuken!
no, you actually look like Rudy Giuliani juggling Trump's balls. Just
Wow, those are huge fucking
You got
balls.
my hair dye sweat coming
I
down.
can't believe
my-
I woke up like this. I swear, Rudy,
So
what have you done?
they're the Always Sunny in Philadelphia's new season's airing, and one of the first 2 or 3 episodes is an account of what they were doing in 2020, and it's like essentially 4 different tales on how they were involved in like the biggest scandals during COVID accidentally, just happenstance. And it's very, very fucking funny. Anyway.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's go into some examples. I labeled this section, give me that sweet, sweet esoterica, baby.
Oh, man.
I wish I never had encouraged you to read your letters.
That's what you get. So I've already given a good, maybe even the best example of ergodic literature, the book that I tried to explain to you guys and failed. But there are a couple of other books that also give an idea as to what ergodic literature entails. You've already mentioned Finnegan's Wake, which I did not purposefully include because I don't really have any experience with even Royce himself. Any of his work is what I'm trying to say.
Royce?
Not the whatever. The fucking dude that wrote Finnegan's Wake.
To
I don't give a
5'9".
fuck. Sure. Jesus. I don't have experience with Jesus either.
Yeezy?
Yeezy, definitely not Yeezy.
Hardly
So we
know
got
her.
Royce
Yeezy.
to 5'9". We got Yeezy happening.
I would say that
Biggie.
Yeezy's most recent album is an example of ergodic literature.
God damn.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm being a shit here. One example, I'm assuming Shane has read at some point, given your predilection with Hunter S. Thompson.
Predilection?
Predilection? Whatever.
Oh my god.
Leave me alone. I'm trying to sound smart.
Okay, you know what? Here's the compliment that you don't deserve, but I'm gonna give to you. You're at least trying.
Oh, thank you. That's all I could ever
you have
ask
done the
for.
Reader's Digest improve your word score.
You are at least the world's best trier.
A for effort.
Okay.
More like
F
a
for
B or
everything
C.
else.
Yeah.
All right. So
Okay.
what Hunter Thompson book are you going to hit me with?
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
That is actually what I wrote my thesis on, friend.
Oh, well, then you might know everything about it.
I did a
so-
comparison of the Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. They are very similarly structured material.
Okay, so you remember everything about that text?
Most
I'm
likely.
I'm pretty fluent with Hunter Thompson.
And
yeah.
the lies just went out the window.
Kind of, yeah. All right. Let's see here. So
Tell
let
me about
just
the
explain
rabbits, Lenny.
Also, you need
Okay.
a better poker face.
Oh, no. Once he said he knew everything about it, I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this lie across. But let's see.
Okay,
Well,
let's
now
talk
that
about
we're
the
all
wave
hungry.
speech.
Yeah.
According to the sources that I read, because I have not read this book, so
Uh-huh.
I'm
Oh,
definitely not going to be, yeah. The narrator, which is Dr. Duke, I believe his name is, or first name escapes me, Duke.
It's just
pronounced-
Duke.
It's pronounced.
It's just Duke?
It's
Fuck,
pronounced
I don't know why the source
Duque.
referred to him as Doctor.
Well, there's Dr.
Duque.
Gonzo, who is his attorney, and then there's Raoul Duke, who is the
Okay, Raoul.
journalist.
Okay. I thought he had a first name. Anyway,
My baloney has a first name.
and it's
Your baloney is still
and
in
it's
the
fuck
offing.
you,
So
Michael.
exactly. So the narrator is not the most reliable. Is that a correct statement to make?
I mean, the first line of the book is that, like, I think we were 15 miles outside of Barstow when the drugs began to take hold.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, they're doing any number of substances over the entirety of the thing. And for those who are unfamiliar, Hunter Thompson coined what he referred to as Gonzo Journalism, which his writing style was that he did not cover the actuality of the events. So say, like, he one of the most famed things is he covered the Kentucky Derby. He didn't say anything about the horse race itself. He talked about the sort of people that attended the Derby and how disgusting and repellent he found them, and how all the spectacle and the gaudy sort of atmosphere that it created impacted him. And so that is where Gonzo Journalism came from, is you're not talking about the event itself, but how it impacted you personally and all the ephemera around it.
Interesting.
Okay.
And so this book follows that same sort of ethos, in that he's going to cover a motorcycle rally in Las Vegas for a magazine, but he is then he's got a suitcase full of drugs, his attorney, and they're getting out of LA to just go lose their minds for a few days, and all of the subsequent nonsense that occurs afterward.
Yes. Okay. All right. That is pretty much the extent that the sources that I had used for this paper or episode, whatever paper, told me.
Okay.
So that's
Same
good.
thing.
So you can't reliably trust on the author, so you have to try and piece together what is actually going on based off of the hints they gave, or other chapters, like the chapter wherein it was, instead of written in the first person perspective that the book is written in, there's a whole chapter that is a tape recording of the dialogue between him and his attorney, because they were too high to reliably recount what had occurred.
Right.
Is that correct? Okay. But the main reason why I think this novel should be considered ergodic literature is the end, where, spoilers and also a trigger warning, the main character, Duke, commits suicide by self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Bullshit.
Yeah, okay.
Get the fuck out of here.
Like I said, I already knew once you said that you had any passing familiarity with this book, that lie's going out the
Okay, all right.
You're an ageist.
yeah,
You're like, he's
yeah.
old.
So
He's seen it.
essentially, I tried to recount Hunter S. Thompson's actual death as the ending of this book, and then I was going to say it was ergodic literature because the narrative then follows his lawyer, which writes a third-person perspective of the rest of the events going on.
Okay.
Right? Because that's the idea. But then also mentions a lot about the inconsistencies of the first-person narrative that Duke had written, which would cause the reader to go back through the text to see what was true and what was fiction.
None of
That
which
was
is true. Right. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
none of that is true. That is all a lie.
Correct.
I honestly don't know how the book ends, but it doesn't end in the same way. He didn't foreshadow his own eventual suicide.
No, he did not.
Motherfucker.
Yeah. So
They are worried about the golf shoes, though.
that's a reference I don't get.
I'm not shocked.
So, okay. Like, this isn't the best example of ergodic literature. In
No, it's
fact,
not.
no sources really cite it as a useful example. An academic paper that talks about ergodic literature mentioned Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas as a good example of postmodernist literature, where ergodic literature kind of comes from, because it's that sort of real separation from tradition in how texts are supposed to be written traditionally.
And it's less about getting from point A to point B and just following the linear path of a story than it is getting caught up in the moment, which is kind of the Lynchian school of film for those playing the home game as well. It's less about see what happens and follow the story. Is just like, here's a weird collection of characters and see how everybody bounces off one another. So, okay. I get what you're driving at.
Yes, this is why I wanted to write my script this way, in that I talked about why I wanted to talk about this, and I give examples instead of trying to define it, so that people can get a better idea of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
An actual great example that is a book, air quotes book, you'll find out why I had air quotes, of poems titled 100,000 Billion Poems by, this is a French name, Raymond.
Ho ho.
You know what? Yeah. Ho ho. Crienu?
Ho ho.
Well, it is French, so it's probably quoi.
Quoi? Nailed.
So it is a set of 10 sonnets. That's it. However, the trick is that each sonnet is printed on cardstock, so the pages are supposed to be especially thick, because each line is separated from the other ones, as in there is a cut between each line in these 10 sonnets. So you can actually flip through each individual line and create your own sonnet. And based off of the way that sonnets are written, they are all what is the correct? They all have the same rhyme scheme and the same rhyme sounds. So a sonnet can be constructed from a combination of any of the lines from the 10 sonnets.
Okay, so it's like choose your own adventure of poetry.
Yes, and also spoilers. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Yes, it is just pretty much create your own sonnet, and that's why it's called 100,000 billion poems.
Because mathematically, that is what you can. Okay.
Yes, it's 10 to the 14th power. That's 1 followed by 14 zeros. Unique sonnets with this book.
Well, God damn.
I don't need to explain that anymore. Another great example is the first book in a box titled Composition Number 1 by another French person, Marc Zaporta. I think I said it right.
Hardly know him.
The book itself is not bound, leaving the pages completely separate from each other, meaning that to read through the book, you'll have to build it yourself. Thankfully, each page has its own contained narrative. So assembling the book in whatever order you choose creates its own unique story.
How did they present the book to you?
In a box, based
Book
off
in a
of the sources
box.
that I have read. It is literally
It's a book in a
loose
box.
leaf of-
Okay.
Open it up,
It's a book in a box.
cut a hole in that box.
Then
That's
it's a
the
different
way you do it.
story.
Oh,
Oh, fuck it.
we'll do it live. Let's see here. Yeah, and I was about to mention the Choose Your Own Adventure novels, right? So would you consider those to be ergodic literature based off the examples that I gave?
I think there is still a degree of linear narrative that exists. You're just playing with mathematical principles at that point. There's something to be said for like the poetry like we were talking about, because if there is imbued meaning and all the lines were specific enough to give you an overarching theme, but vague enough that they all could interconnect with one another and be interpreted as having, something impactful or meaningful, that's fantastic. Choose Your Own Adventure, you still have a pretty finite number of stories, and they do hinge on making maybe, 7 to 12 decisions, and then you're just kind of going back and reading through. But still, you're kind of intended to keep the same character, the same functionality, and for the most part, it's pretty linear. Like, I have a Batman Choose Your Own Adventure on a shelf behind me right now.
Ooh.
But same principle applies. So
Okay.
maybe,
Okay.
but possibly, based on kind of the examples you've given, it feels like you do need to have something impacted upon by another force or change perspective, where you're not kind of following, like maybe if it's a character dies and then you pick up the story with another character and things like that. That seems to me to be the trappings of what you're describing. But
Okay.
don't allow me to domineer the conversation. Anybody else?
No, Michael is
I
lulling
only
me to
learned
a
how to
deep
read
rest.
last month, so I just really feel in over my head on this topic.
Is there any questions I can answer to help guide you?
Can you
Yeah, why do
mansplain
you
it
like
any
them?
more to me, Michael? No.
Oh,
No, I don't want to.
I'm just
mansplain.
giving you a hard time.
I don't want to
just-
mansplain. I
don't
do.
want to mansplain. I just want to normal splain it. I want to neutral splain it. Non-binary splain it.
okay.
So-
You want to they them explain it? Okay.
You've
Yes.
spent a lot of time talking about what it is, but I still don't. I don't feel like you've explained why it tickles your brain. Like you make
Oh.
this sound like this is like
I
your
think
favorite
based on the
thing.
questions he was proffering at the beginning is that he is someone who interacts with media in a very hands-off fashion initially, because his mind is kind of fluttering about like a butterfly trapped in a jar at some point. So it
Fair.
allows him to indulge all of his whims of, ooh, let me go check this out. Or I think he's talked about it previously as well with like the Mother Horse Eyes scenario and some of the other things, is that because you kind of have to do more independent research and the stories are all varied but yet somehow interconnected, you then get to be the arbiter of what connects all the stories together and do a little extra research. So it helps to keep him more actively engaged in the story as opposed to getting bored by just, oh, okay, it's missionary sex. I got it.
I'll allow it.
Oh, it's so bland.
Now,
They're
the
just
question
doing
is-
it doggy style.
Now, the question is whether or not I did interpret you correctly, Michael. That is what we'll get onto, is whether
No,
I understand you.
You definitely you figured me out 100%.
I get you.
Aww.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Now
I'm
kiss.
actually really happy.
No,
So
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I enjoy this kind of approach to literature is because you said it earlier, my neurodivergent tendencies. I have had an issue ever since starting college that no matter how interesting a book will be, if I sit down and read for a while and just try and read the text, I will fall asleep. It doesn't matter how good of a book it is. And it's frustrating because it's happened with Stephen King novels that I really enjoy. It's happened with textbooks I need to study for school. It doesn't matter how invested I am in the text. I will have a high chance of falling asleep while reading it. So anything that involves me to do something more than just reading each line as it appears, gives me that sort of interaction, and extra, I guess, stimulation, to use that word, to where I can actually engage with the text in a closer, not intimate, because now I'm sounding more sexual than I want it to be, but just in a way that where I feel like my mind won't go to sleep.
Yeah, I was gonna say it keeps you stimulated.
Yeah.
That's pretty. And like I was, my first experience with an audiobook in a long time, I tried to listen to The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And I got so distracted because I was walking around and doing things while listening to the book that I would miss like 10 to 15 minutes worth of content and like wouldn't have assimilated any of it. It was going on in my headphones while I was doing things, but I wasn't hearing it.
It was just white noise.
So yeah. So similarly, I think it's just kind of a byproduct of personality and chemistry and things like that. But like I do have to sit down and laser beam focus on the thing to actually engage, because otherwise if I start doing something else, I lose that other component.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And that's why I can't do audiobooks, because you're right. If I'm doing something that's purely audio, like podcasts, I'm usually doing something else. I'm working or I'm doing chores or something like that. I can't do that and pay attention and actually ingest what is going on with a book. Right? Because every single word is important in some way, right? It's not a lot of filler as opposed to a podcast where most of what we say is filler.
Right.
Right? So
the hell you say.
So I
Why
can't
even
sit down
bother?
and just, it's entertaining filler.
Hardly know
But-
her.
Damn near killed her. So like I can't enjoy audio books, so when any time you guys are like, listen to this, I'm like, I won't be able to, because I'll either be sitting down and paying attention only to that, in which case I'll probably fall asleep, or I'm doing other things, in which case I'm not processing whatever the fuck I'm listening to.
Tried the Melissa approach, and you can start taking up knitting, and then you can knit and just have something to do with your hands while you're listening to an audiobook, because that's 80% of that woman's life these days.
That's actually a very good point. It doesn't have to be something like directly engaging. It's just something I'm doing.
Just get yourself a fidget spinner or something, and keep your hands busy.
I do have one right
There you go.
here. Yeah.
Oh.
It's a fidget cube.
I have one.
Or-
I remember it. Future me editor will include that in the show.
Oh, he's not
Uh,
looking because he's trying not to fuck up talking. But
Or play
Same.
Tetris or something. Do like
I
mindless.
can't do Tetris. I suck at Tetris.
have you tried actually filleting?
Huh?
Fillet and read at the same
God
time?
damn.
I don't know what kind of like bizarre sex god you are. I can't focus on anything other than that task. I'm just saying, like,
I love that-
filleting and reading. I can't do both. At the
While
same
all
time.
of this happened immediately after John asked that question, my internet connection was unstable. So everyone froze the second that you said, have you tried filleting? And then it just went dead. I was like,
have you tried
I
filleting?
was like, the wrath of God finally caught up with me. Someone intimated something that was not heteronormative on the show, and then everything crashed. Oh my God.
Case of the vapors.
but no, I can't fillet and do anything else.
Okay, well, let's not get further into your proclivities than we need to, Michael. But
Okay, moving on to the next section.
But not before we get
sorry.
into that. To your point, though, like Melissa she has a very difficult time reading graphic novels or comic books because of that same thing. Her mind gets caught up in the fact that there's so many things happening on the page that she'll lose the dialogue thread. She doesn't see where it's going, and her mind just floats to the images and gets attached to certain things, and so she can't just linearly follow what's happening. It's too distracting for her. So everybody has their own little hill to climb in that regard.
Oh yeah. So the next section I've labeled, just now that I know that John gets annoyed by these section titles, I'm just going to keep saying them. Cyber my text, daddy. Now, while some might restrict ergodic literature to the physical medium, I think this genre can apply to any forms of media wherein passivity is the expectation. Like, I wouldn't count video games as a whole to fall under this genre, even though you are kind of dictating, the story that is being told in a way. But I wouldn't count them. They wouldn't fall under this umbrella of sorts because that is the expectation that you're supposed to be active. And only in situations where that it goes against the norm that it would fall under this definition. Does that make sense?
Somewhat. It's in the same argument we had for the choose your own adventure thing. Where, like, if the intention is that there is still some sort of linear path that's being followed or some sort of normalcy that it's adherent to, then it's not subversive.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like that, the idea of subversion, but like, no, I guess you're right. Because
I mean, from the way you described the initial book, it sounds like the subversion of sort of how you would normally assume or ingest the material is being broken apart and changed in ways that are, not too far afield because you're still technically reading, but it's not sort of your standard operating procedure.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That makes sense to me.
If it was a game where you had to stop playing the game and there's a sub game, I mean, they do this in Arkham where you have like dream sequences and things like that, where they change how you play the game and your controls vary and things like that. So that there's a possibility you could get some of those things.
Yeah, so that was what I was going to say next. I feel like there are exceptions to the rule, but it's not just in general, right? So I mentioned walking simulators as an example of the opposite, where it is non-ergodic, where you are even more you are passive as a video game player. So walking simulators are just the idea that the only thing you really do is you just walk forward. You walk from plot point to plot point to plot point. And that is the whole idea of it, is that they're telling a story that you are technically interacting with by virtue of moving the main character forward, right?
I was just thinking of an actual literal walking simulator.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's the name of games
you contextualized afterward, but initially I was like, what is this, like Goat Simulator?
I mean, Goat Simulator is definitely more so than a walking simulator.
Pretty metal too, yeah.
It's hardcore. Let's see. On the other hand, a visual novel is less video game and more book with a visualization element. So have you guys ever used or have ever like read visual novels before?
Are you talking to Shane?
I'm talking in general because you are a person. Same thing for Courtney.
Allegedly. How dare you fucking assume?
Is Hatoful
I guess I am
Boyfriend
assuming.
a visual novel?
Yes,
okay,
it is.
Yes.
And that is one of these one of the examples that I gave.
I'm not familiar with this, so.
So, no, that's fair. A visual novel is essentially, it's supposed to be a video game, but it's essentially a book that you're reading through that it's almost like a picture book. Actually, that's all it essentially is, is that it's a picture book where you have these characters that you're interacting with through the text, but you're actually able to see them instead of visualizing it in your own way. There are also choose your own adventure elements in here where you can make decisions where you either go one way or you go another way. This also falls, the dating simulators fall under this purview.
Oh, I was going to say, you can't fillet and do more than one thing. So
Exactly. Well, and that's the beauty of visual novels is that you can hit the pause button. So all you have is their picture up front and the book doesn't continue. I actually did mention Hatoful Boyfriend. I mentioned a dating sim that I did in college a long time ago that I think I've mentioned.
It's called a relationship.
No, I didn't do those in college. I was very bad at those. No, I mentioned another dating sim. Like I said, my statement stands. I mentioned another dating sim in the past, Katawa Shoujo. If anyone wants to know, they can reach out to me.
The Bozo Show?
Sure, we'll go with that. That's kind of like hearkening to my pre-4chan edgelord days, so we won't go into that. So this is another topic that I want to bring up and see what you guys think. The Soulsborne series of games. Do you think that those are ergodic literature based off of the fact, and I'm going to explain a little bit for people that aren't aware, a lot of the world building and plot in Soulsborne games, as in Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Elden Ring, which is coming out this month as of recording.
Oh fuck yeah!
A lot of the story, a lot of the plot, a lot of the background is contained in item descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
So you're never actively told what's going on aside from follow this path and fight the next boss, right? If you want to engage with the story in a lot more on a deeper level, you have to read all these item descriptions of items that you have gained over the course of your journey. So based off of that, would you say that that is ergodic literature?
I wouldn't disagree. Particularly, I'm thinking Bloodborne here, just because there are so many elements where how the narrative is conveyed to you initially also controls your understanding of the game.
Very true.
So if you go in completely just cold, you're just, shut up and go hunt monsters. Don't think about this too hard. So yeah, it really is through repeat playing and doing, multiple different character builds and all these other aspects that you get a full understanding of the story
Pieces
itself
it together
and the intricacies of it. So yeah, I would say that makes sense.
You're onto something there, Miguel.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we're coming to a consensus for what defines it. I'm like literally giddy as shit because I this is turning out better than I expected.
Okay,
I'm
well,
loving it.
We also have our the feminine contingent here is not giving us her opinion. So
that is true.
You've played
you're
all
a
those
fucking
games.
nerd.
I know, Courtney. I've seen you do it
for us.
So is this like when I play Stardew Valley and then I get upset that I can't figure out what's going on and then I go to the wiki and then somebody else tells me how to play the game and then I just do it that way?
That is actually, I would argue that is
actually,
also
yes.
ergodic literature. Yes, because you could play through the game without trying to understand what's going on in the background at all. You don't need to read into the lives of the 30 people that you tried dating at once, right? And then
you're a
got
monster.
rejected
dumped.
by all except for one. Yeah, exactly.
so hard.
Right? You don't. If you play the game normally, you might not understand all their motivations. But if you were to go further and delve into the Wikipedia pages or delve into other people's opinions, then you get a better, more complete vision or idea of what is going on in the game. So I would argue that Stardew Valley is also an example of ergodic literature in that you have to put effort into it in order to fully understand the text that is being presented. Would you agree, Courtney?
Yeah, I mean that sounds pretty accurate. There's a lot
Do
of
you know what I am
nuance to
saying?
the game that you would miss if you didn't explore further.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There we go. Cool.
As a secondary sort of like sub discussion here, though, considering how Courtney has described her game playing as anytime I encounter a boss, I hand the controller to Jonah and have him finish, I would delight in watching Courtney play Bloodborne for 15 minutes.
We should make that a
Pretty
reality.
much just get through the tutorial to the next room.
Guys.
I was like, yeah, not even that.
Even
No,
do that
just
with freaking what's the other game? The dragon and the staircase and the I died.
yes.
Skyrim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I say this is, and why the other boys are laughing. So the opening sequence of the game is that you go in to have an operation done where you're supposed to receive sort of a transfusion. You wake up on the table and then you're just starting to go out and explore the world. The moment you get down the stairs, there is a giant sort of hell beast werewolf in a corner that you run into, and you have to fight it with your bare hands.
No.
So
the idea is, according to the game design, is that you are supposed to die.
yes, it's intended for you to lose multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Because that's when you learn that there is a world that you spawn into when you're dead, and that's when you get your weapon. That's when you're told everything that goes on in there.
But it's also exceedingly hard until you build up a certain skill set to progress in that game at all.
Right.
So it is just like a string of frustrations that you just build upon until you give up caring at all, and then eventually, you might be able to succeed.
Eventually.
Because you get good.
That sounds terrible.
It's it is pretty masochistic as an activity.
There are rewards at the end, though. It does
Yes,
pay off.
but you do have moments where, as you're playing that game, and I can say from having not completed Sekiro or Dark Souls, where I was just like, why am I doing this? I'm so frustrated, and
Like,
this
oh,
is
yeah.
really vexing. Like, okay, I'm just not doing this anymore.
Like, oh yeah, fuck this.
Yeah, like I'm done.
I did that with Neo, which is another Soulsborne-esque game, because each weapon you have has four different weapon styles or stances that you get into. So you have one weapon, and you can assume all these different stances that change where you hit. So if there's people, it's like an old school fighting game where if you throw an up punch, if they up block, you're screwed, right? But if you have an under punch, stuff like that. So that game got really frustrating for me because you had to switch on a dime to read what the monsters were doing. And if you didn't, you were out of stamina and they were pretty much having their way with you. That's the only game I've ever just rage quit, uninstalled.
So you're like a human trying to swim away from a dolphin.
Yeah. Except for I don't want to mention the analogous uninstalling part of that analogy there. But yeah, I literally sat there. I'm like, I'm wasting my life playing this game, and I immediately uninstalled that game.
Yep.
And I've never touched it since.
Yeah, first time that you have a giant, like 40-foot tall gorilla throw a handful of feces at you and have it kill you because it's poisonous, you start to reconsider your life choices.
Oh, for sure.
I know the exact boss you're talking about, and that
one of my favorites.
A difficult one.
It's a great
of course
fight.
you are. You hate yourself.
You're not wrong. Yeah. Well, we missed all of your lies except for the.
I was like, are you done?
Yeah. The nice part about this is that I could be done whenever you guys are.
Oh.
I had some extra YouTube examples, but a lot of them are. There's a YouTuber by the name of Markiplier. He usually does video game Let's Plays, but he did two very interesting videos called Who Killed Markiplier and A Heist with Markiplier, which were choose your own adventures in the guise of YouTube, in that they would have options that you would choose or choices, and by the act of choosing one, you would actually go to another YouTube video.
Okay.
And it would tell a whole narrative.
It's like
based
the
off of the
recommendations that you have at the end of the video.
Well, they would actually. So I think this is a previous iteration of YouTube where they actually had I think what is it called? It would pretty much you'd be able to press buttons on there, captions or something to that effect.
Okay.
I'm having a stroke. I can't remember. But yes, so that was the whole idea. So it was like a choose your own adventure, which we kind of said doesn't really fit the idea of ergodic literature, because it is very linear, which is a fair point. And that's the same idea with these videos, in that you can't go off and do your own thing. You are constrained by the decisions that are offered, not even that you make, but that are offered, right? A genre that I think fits in very well with the basic definition of ergodic literature, and this is my last part, is alternate reality games, or ARGs. In these YouTube series, the plot is not contained to the YouTube videos associated with the channel, but also with accompanying material. either through secret unlisted videos that you have to discover through breaking codes in the original videos, or through secondary sources like a Twitter account, a website, or a second YouTube channel. An example that I've mentioned in a previous episode is Marble Hornets, the series that helped popularize the Slenderman mythos. Their main series contained Easter eggs in their videos that led to a second YouTube channel, which I can't for the life of me remember what it was called, but it showed important scenes from the main series, but from a different perspective, which showed the kind of in the same idea of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, that the main storyteller, the main narrator, isn't all that reliable. There's a lot of things that are missing, however, so you may take them.
Okay. Has that Tarantino-esque element to it.
Yeah, where you can't really trust exactly what's going on until you delve deeper. And so the perception of the story, the plot itself, is changed based on how deep you go into that consumption of the story.
Okay.
Another good example is an ongoing analog horror channel called Gemini Home Entertainment, which I will eventually talk about analog horror because it is getting super popular and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, you do love that shit. It's good too.
Oh yeah. Oh wait, you've watched this YouTube channel before?
No, I'm saying you're really into it and you've talked about it.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
So Gemini Home Entertainment is essentially a collection of VHS tapes covering topics like a wilderness survival guide, games for kids, an ad for a remote control mining vehicle, and an informational tape on home invasion advice. So it covers a plethora of topics, right? But there's always, and I don't want to get into detail about analog horror because that, again, a whole other episode, but it essentially covers other topics, and there is an overall there's a lot of connective tissue between these. And originally in the past, one way to get all these to figure out the connective tissue was there was an actual game that this YouTube channel developed called Lethal Omen, which was like an 16-bit first-person shooter where you'd actually be able to uncover teasers for future videos, and it also collated a lot of the previous lore that was in the previous VHS tapes that were talked about.
Okay.
So it was pretty much, it was one of those things where you can sit there and try and analyze all the different tapes and see what's YouTube videos and see what's going on, or you could play this game which had multiple endings depending on the actions that you take, and each ending would reveal either teasers for future videos, which a lot of them have since come out, or it would reveal subtle nuance that like underlying plot that wasn't explicitly relevant to a lot of the other stuff.
Do you think that the infamous PT falls into that? And PT, for those who don't know, it was supposed to be like a teaser for a new Silent Hill game that was going to come out. This is before Death Stranding happened. Because one of the developers, was it the developer or the writer, ended up leaving the project and it tanked the whole thing, but it was going to have Norman Reedus in it. But PT was this horrific, truly horrific demo where you were dropped into a house, first person, very, very hyper realistic graphics, and you would walk in the same loop of this hallway, and every time you went through a door, subtle things would change the more and more you investigate, and then it's very spooky. That is another one that you should go watch a YouTube playthrough of, even if you don't like usually watch Let's Plays, because it's not available anymore. It's fucking horrifying, so creepy.
It is beautiful, especially now that people have torn it apart and figured out that like the scary monster that is there is always chasing you. Actually, she stays. Like they did, they broke the fixed camera angle and had the character perspective, or the character itself, move away, but keep your perspective stationed, and you'd actually see that the horrifying monster that follows you throughout the whole game is always behind you a certain distance away. Yeah, it's terrifying. It's that game. So I don't know if anyone knows anything about Metal Gear. I'm not gonna
I know they're
I'm not
dummy
gonna go
thick.
into too much detail, but the creator of Metal Gear, who also who also designed Death Stranding, I don't want to go on about the game, I didn't like it, but Metal Gear and all its ridiculous convolution, that person wrote a horror game, PT, with Norman Reedus. He also worked with, I think it was Guillermo del Toro.
Yes.
Okay.
No. Yes, it was. Yeah. To design PT. So we're not just talking about a very good video game designer or creator. We're also talking about a very good filmmaker. They combine their works together to create this. PT is short for playable teaser. So it was supposed to be like an intricate game where you would try and figure out literally what the next game was going to be about. That was literally the whole thing. If you beat all the esoteric stuff that you had to go through, all the hoops
Then
you
you
had
get
to
an
jump
actual
through,
trailer.
it was an actual trailer for the next Silent Hill game. But I would argue that that is not an example of ergodic literature, because in order to get to the end goal, you had to do a lot of weird stuff, but you had to do it in a specific way, and you had to do these specific things, which I think like involved walking 10 steps after you beat the original gameplay loop, and then listing characters from a previous Del Toro game or some or movie or something like that. It's a convoluted thing. It's neither here nor there, but essentially I would argue that it is not ergodic literature, because in order to get the full context, you have to play through it linearly.
Okay, got it.
But
Even
if you went to other sources in order to get the information for how you unlock the game, that would make it easier, no?
That's a fair point. You're right. If you were to look up the wiki, because this was originally available on the PlayStation 4 console.
Right.
And then after, I think it was Konami, which was the original, they are the IP, they own the IP for Silent Hill.
Yeah.
They pulled the whole thing. They canceled the whole thing. So we had this game that was going to lead to an actual full-fledged game featuring Norman Reedus as the main character, having Guillermo del Toro and Hideo Kojima. Got it. As the main designers of this game. It was the video game publisher that pulled the whole thing.
Okay.
And they removed it from the PlayStation Store, so the only way you could play it was on PlayStations that still had it downloaded.
All right.
Yeah. So, you were mentioning that you had to look it up in order to get the endings that...
Right,
or the
because,
ending
I
that you're
mean,
trying to get at.
presumably you wouldn't be able to readily finish the game just by walking around and poking around, right? It
Yes.
almost forces you to go out, look externally, or try to get hints from somebody else, or try to cheat your way through it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
You're right,
like,
yes.
technically you could, for instance, say with a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, you can probably discover all of the things that are secrets in that game, but dear God, that would be an investment of hours upon hours in order to do it. Because, I mean, there are so many little nuanced things in that game which require you to go walk through a cave system and find this one little thing that's hidden back in a corner, and you have to have gotten a map in order to... You can't even stumble upon it until you get, like, a treasure map that points you in that direction. So, like, there's a lot of things that somewhat involve... You do need a little help, presumably, but unless you just walked the entire Earth inch to inch. And that's a very big open world game. So things like that, I think, almost insist that you do need to get a little help from somewhere else, but you could still technically do it if you wanted to. I was like, yeah, but so yeah, those things I always find a little weird. But if the game is built to where you almost just couldn't, try as you might, you wouldn't be able to complete it without something else augmenting your skill set, I would say that technically would qualify then.
Yeah, because, like, even the people that came across that, it was a collaborative aspect.
Okay.
Right? So the people that, like, came across, this is how you solve this puzzle, right? There's still that collaboration, and then referring to these extra texts in order to get that information, I would agree, yes. No, I was about to add a but if, but I think, like, in general, that would follow it.
It's just that it turns into whether or not it is incumbent upon, like, it expects that the community will coalesce and help you to complete the game, or whether they build the game where you couldn't complete it unless one of the programmers essentially helped you through, like with backdoors and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think that would be where you start getting into, you know, as you would say, your ergodism.
My ergot.
Ergot.
Okay. Well, that is essentially all I wanted to talk about. This turned into a lot longer episode than I expected, and I'm ecstatic.
Well, there you go,
glad.
baby boy.
Oh, this was fantastic. So the lies, you already got one. Two of them are
Okay.
So the first lie, I mentioned that Johnny hands over the text to his close friend, Lewd. That's bullshit. Johnny writes the whole thing. Though, John called bullshit on the ecstasy trip. That does happen. And there is a list of their sexual conquests that do occur throughout that binge.
But how long?
And it is listed.
How long a document could it possibly be if it's just left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand of themselves?
I'll show you after we're done recording that list, because I have to search through the text a little bit to find it.
Don't you think Johnny Truant can't go out and get laid?
Oh,
Come
he
on.
gets
With
pussy.
a
How
name
dare
like
you.
that.
Oh, he gets all the pussy.
Also, I would argue that there was a large. I kept getting the game or pickup artistry vibes from Lewd, because he would always try and go out. They even mentioned at one point that he was peacocking, where he was like dressing himself up in kind of like an extravagant,
Naturally,
like sort of a thing to get women attention. Women attention as opposed to women's attention. It's the women attention.
You play
It's
game to get women attention.
Exactly.
Emotional damage.
Yeah. So anything involving Lewd, there was no spiritual quest. There's no ayahuasca. None of that. There was ecstasy binge, and that was it.
Gotcha.
Let's see. The next one, I described what was in the cyber text involving a 2,000-page text, evolution of media, referencing a famed TERF J.K. Rowling. I didn't read the book, but I'm sure none of that was true.
I didn't understand the reference, but I got the point.
Yeah, I also don't think J.K. Rowling used the internet to encourage fan communities, considering she only approves of certain topics for her fan fiction. And she just has a general hatred for a good chunk of her audience, i.e. the trans community.
Okay, so I have never gone on to Pottermore. So are you saying that if you are a contributor there are only certain things that you are able to contribute as a member of that community?
As in, I looked this up to verify this lie, because if I was wrong, I didn't want to make it as a lie and be called out that was true. She has gone on the record as only supporting certain types of fan fiction within the community. As in, she is against fan fiction that sexualizes her characters in any way, shape, or form, which is like 95% of the fan fiction.
Yeah.
She only has specific topics that I didn't really find a list for, of topics or subjects that she feels is appropriate for her intellectual property.
Okay, I'm interested, because like, having never accessed it, the way that it was pitched, it was like, this is a place where anybody could just log on, and as long as you're a member, you could also contribute to stories or be part of a discussion or, you know, get involved. So that would be interesting if you are in fact filtering out and specifically stifling things that might go afield there. But that's just a curiosity. We don't need to go any further down the rabbit hole there. I having not been on there, I was curious if that's how it worked.
That's a fair point. I didn't know that Pottermore had a fan fiction community within it itself, as opposed to other websites like AO3 or something like that, or fanfiction.net that we've used in previous fan fictions. I'm not sure if that...
Essentially, I think
know,
from the way that it was described, is it was like anybody who wants to will come in and you can contribute stories, and then she herself would also occasionally contribute additional stories that would go off into tangents. So it is essentially trying to facilitate that the Potter universe never dies, technically. That there will always be new stories being told and people can kind of run with it, and you can make it your own. At least that's how it was pitched initially, if I recall. But again, I'm speaking from a place of partial ignorance here, having never logged onto it myself. But
I logged onto it to confirm that I am in Ravenclaw, and that was the extent of my use of Pottermore.
Slytherin, baby.
I have no ambition.
it's like, why'd you have to sully my house, Michael?
I'm sorry. I like being smart. Doesn't mean I know how to communicate it.
I mean, you strike
True
me as
and
straight
big.
Hufflepuff, and I'm not trying.
Whoa! Them's fighting words.
What are you, Courtney? I know you know yours as well.
I don't have a freaking clue what mine is.
Really?
No,
Shane?
I've never had any interest in Harry Potter.
Oh, you're a good
that's
Christian.
fair, I
It's 'cause
guess.
she's a-
No,
It was a
that is-
banned
that
book.
is fair.
'cause she's a good
exactly.
Christian
when
housewife,
it will
yeah.
summon the devil.
Maybe that should be
in
your,
household.
maybe that should be your 2022 challenge, is giving an honest reaction after you finish reading the series.
Yeah, actually, that would be a really no, don't finish the series, but like look up the houses, and then as a TikTok, say which house that you belong to. I don't know.
Anyway, thanks, Wayne.
I'm trying to be
Why
hip.
do you think other people care about me, Michael? That's the real question.
Why do you think anyone cares about this podcast?
Well, according to your husband, depending upon whether or not you have a revealing top, there are plenty of people that care about you.
That is a very fair point.
Is-
You did say that it is on the record whether or not he said
That
it.
is true.
So, and then to finish out this thing, you got the last lie, Shane, by calling bullshit on my attempt to lie about the Hunter S. Thompson.
The
book.
absolute just
gall.
the gall of you, sir.
The goal.
Knowing
the
full
gumption.
well that I had talked about Hunter Thompson previously and said
That's
that I was
why
an
I-
acolyte, and you thought you were just going to glide something by me.
He thought you were
I
just
tried
making silly
being
sounds.
sneaky. I'll admit I was trying to be sneaky when I put that in. I'm like, he's mentioned him before. He says he enjoys him. He listens. He like read a lot of his stuff. Let's see if he remembers it. I didn't fucking know you wrote a whole thesis on it.
Yeah, no,
I'm just saying.
I don't
He
fuck
wrote the
around.
G-dang book on it, son.
Indeed.
All right. Well, that is my topic.
Okay.
Well done, buddy. That was
You done
fun.
good, kid.
Yes.
Yes,
Just
yes,
give me the positive
yes,
affirmation. Thank you.
Yes.
No, that's after we leave the meeting. I don't want to discuss you guys now. It's called tact. I occasionally demonstrate it. Occasionally,
It's called
I demonstrate
tactile.
it. Well,
Tactile dysfunction.
Feeling
That's
it right
after.
now.
Ooh wee.
Gotta regret right now. I'm feeling it.
Fantastic.
Things fell short
So-
this time. Smile fades in the summer. Oh man, I'm actually quoting Blink on this podcast.
I was gonna say,
I need
like,
to get out
wow.
of here.
You really,
All
you
right.
really Harvey dented this. Yeah.
Indeed, I miss you. Where are you? Okay,
I'm
moving
so
on.
so sorry.
I am in fact so sorry right now for even attempting that, but this isn't Angels and Airways, and I am not ruining your evening. So, ladies and germaphobes, as always, we are delighted to have you here with us to share every blinking moment. Damn it. And take off your pants and jacket while you're
Ah,
here.
yes.
Well done. It's much
Fuck you both.
appreciated. They probably would. I want to see some naked dudes. That's why I built this pool. But we hope that you all enjoyed this as much as Michael did, because he is just basting in his own juices over there. And if you did, there are myriad ways that you can tell us. In fact, you can first subscribe to this glorious show and then rate and review, because we would love to hear from you. And naturally, of course, we have got myriad other avenues that you can explore us a little more fully if you're inclined to go down our ergot path.
Ooh, it's a dangerous path.
Indeed, because we are, of course, on the tubes of you varied Wednesdays, just depending upon the circumstances, roll the dice. But as of last week, you could have heard John doing a very passable Ben Shapiro and talking about love in a time of cholera.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good times.
Heard it here first.
Yeah, so go check that out. It's a delightful experience. Superfan Steven was absolutely overjoyed.
Oh,
and
okay.
appreciated everything. And was upset that I disabused the notion that you didn't... I was told that Steven was thrilled by the liberal eyes. I was like, that is a John improv. That is not in the actual text. And I was yelled at because it's like, it was so good. I was like, yeah, John occasionally gets a hold of the ball, man.
What can I say? I was in character.
Indeed.
Steven asked me if it was satire, and I was like, nah. He's
To us-
serious
to
about
us.
everything he do.
Satirical to
normal
us.
people.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Just like that wet ass P word.
Or Fellini satirical, or filleting satirical if you're Michael. But so go check that out. It's a lot of fun. And also, of course, you can scope our TikTok because it is just fraught with cleavage and other things to hold men's attention for at least 30
truly.
seconds. And you can actually watch my beard just grow
And fall off.
like a chia pet.
because you are actually
from this
back,
point forward.
just
Yeah,
like I
you can
predicted.
just watch it week by week progress if you continue to watch TikToks. From
Where
now on
in the
out. It's
world
good.
is Shane's mustache?
Not up your ass right now? I'll tell you that
Sad
much.
day.
That's it.
Sad day to be alive. Yeah.
Indeed. But it is a great day for human misery. So, I think that is going to officially wrap this thing up like pages from a boxed book around your cranium. And so we hope that you have appreciated this stellar story that we've been telling this week. And, show us some love.
Yeah.
Continue to be here with us. And for the Disinformed podcast this week, friends, I am Kermit T. Frog. Actually, sorry, I'm Shane.
I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
I'm Courtney.
And zippity zoop, we're out of here.
Got me.
Guys, I'm a Ravenclaw.